Isn't the puppy cute? You get more dog time. So, I'm dressed like Thor. I also have a cape. It has Thor's hammer on the back. Don't ask. So, this video is going to be about the Nonaka family, so Rika's family from Digimon Tamers, mostly discussing her mother and her grandmother, and then I will touch back on her father. And you get the cute puppy in the background, who just had a walk. And medicine. So he's like, I don't know if I like you right now, Mom, but I wanted to lay on the bed. Hey, you know. That's what he wants to do. That's what he wants to do. Okay. So, Rika is obviously one of the main tamers. We see her mother and her grandmother a fair amount throughout the course of the series. Her mother is Rumiko Nonaka, and she is 28 years old. She had Rika when she was 18. And at some point, her and her husband ended up getting a divorce sometime after Rika was born. Her mother is a fashion model. By technicality, I know that in the English dub, I think her mother is, or Rika is, I believe, supposed to be 12 in the English dub. And so I think that would make her mother actually closer to like 30 instead of 28. Just to keep that context going, unless they want to have it be that that Rika's mother had her when she was 16, which I don't think would go over well, considering so many other things that they had to change in different, anime and stuff like that when it was being dubbed. Well, he debates, I will talk. He's like, I know I can make this work. Come on, stupid shade. Work. Now it just looks like I have a headless dog. He's like, I'm not headless. I'm cute. Still with it. Okay, whatever. I'll actually tilt this back. It's a lot of glare on the screen. He's like, but now they can't see me. Okay, whatever. Kind of the backstory that we get for Rika's mother is that she got into modeling when she was younger. I don't remember if they ever state whether or not Rika's mother, whether or not Rumiko finished school or not. But she ended up becoming a model, and she seems to be a rather famous one at that point in time, because we see like posters of her in various places and everything. And some people seem to recognize her mother at times. Some of the other things that we see about Rika's mother is the relationship that they have at the beginning of the show, and I went over this in Rika's video, is actually quite strained. Throughout the course of the show, there ends up being various points where, Rumiko is trying to connect with Rika. We kind of see this in one of the flashbacks that we get with Rika, where we see her playing, Digimon. It's like after she won one of the card tournaments or something like that before she got Renamon. And Rumiko is just like, well, it's great that you have these hobbies and everything and, all this other stuff, but, I didn't have time for that when I was a kid. This kind of implies that Rumiko and her mother came from a much poorer background than what Rumiko is being able to give to Rika, because Rika is also at a private school. Also, we see that the Nonaka family live in this very nice, traditional-looking home. There's this nice garden in it. It's, kind of all one story to a degree. There's like a nice dining room that we see in it, later on in the series. And we see all these other things there that imply that this is a very nice traditional home. Either it was they had the home built for them, or it was already built, and Rumiko was just like, oh, I want to be able to give my daughter. Hi, can I help you? He's like, I leave. Okay. Rumiko is probably along the lines of, well, I want to give my daughter a better shot at life than I had, which is very obvious in the fact that she puts Rika into a private school. I wouldn't necessarily say, because I mentioned with Henry's family that they seem to be rather well off, given his father's profession, but it could have also been that because, Rumiko's mother, Seiko, had ended up being, because she probably didn't come from a very wealthy background, she was probably very good with managing money. And then it might be that Rumiko, makes the money and everything, and maybe she learned some of her mother's money managing skills, and she has, implemented those into being able to have like good investments and stuff like that. So that way she can have, money to send Rika to this private school, have money to be able to give Rika, different things that she didn't have at the time when they were growing up. Or at least that's what I've picked up on from watching it and such. But yeah, Rika and her mother are not very close. There's very strange relationship there. At the beginning of the show, Rika doesn't think her mother understands her at all. And to a degree, there is a bit of that generational divide that's going on, and the fact that Rumiko is very much into, fashion and beauty and everything else. And that, Rika's opinion of fashion, or Rika's type of fashion, is not the same type of fashion that her mother is into. And, we see Rumiko there, through a good portion of the series, being around Rika, trying to connect with her at times. One of the other ones was, there's a moment where Rika is being followed around by Calamon, and then she ends up picking up Calamon, and Rumiko happens to show up, and like there's posters of Rumiko on the building, of course, so people are like, oh my god, it's the model from the pictures. And Rumiko like is looking at Rika, and like she has all these fans around her, but she's paying attention to her daughter. So she gets points for that, but she's not quite connecting in the fact that she sees Rika holding Calamon, and she thinks that Calamon is like Rika's toy. And Rika's like, no, this isn't my toy, and she like runs off. And then there's another moment where when Renamon has gone to kind of have like this talk with, I don't remember, it's the Ox Deva, I don't remember what his name is off the top of my head. When Renamon goes to have a talk with him, Rika, kind of like in a way to distract herself, agrees to let her mother kind of set up this photo shoot for her, where it's, it's a photographer that Rumiko has worked with before, and like a designer that Rumiko's worked with before, so it's not like these are strangers for Rumiko. Probably not necessarily people that Rika has been around a lot, but there's at least somewhat of a familiarity there. And such, so it's better than like, oh, these are random strangers that I'm throwing you into a room with. It's no, these are people that your mother trusts to a degree, to have her daughter around. And they put her into the, this is where you see Rika in the much more frilly pink dress, and she's, I look at it as Rika is finding a way to distract herself, that Renamon's not there, and she's like giving her mother a chance. And, they put her in front of the camera, and, she's just like, oh, Rika, you look so adorable. And, like, even the photographer and the designer are like, oh, she looks wonderful. And, they're doing the photo shoot, and Rika just kind of has, Rika does not have a good time at the photo shoot, and she, like, storms out. And then, like, later that night, she kind of gets scolded by her mother of, like, you ran out on, I don't remember the name of the photographer, but you ran out on them, and, you need to apologize and all this other stuff. And it's not like she's being mean about it. It's like, and Rika brings up the point of like, no, I didn't want to do this. You're the one that set up this photo shoot. Rika agreed to do it, but she wasn't the one that like set it up in the first place. It wasn't her idea. And, Sayaka Sayoko kind of points that out. She's like, well, she has a point. Um, and I'll get to the grandmother in a few minutes, in a little bit. But with Rika's mom, there's another point during there's points during the first movie, the Digimon Battle for Adventure, where we see Rika's mom on this plane, because it's implied that Rika's mom has been off doing like some photo shoots and some other things like that in some various places around the world. I think it's hinted at least Paris, if not maybe a couple of other places. And she's flying her way back to Japan. And so it's a little bit like, I think it might be a reference to like Mimi in the Digimon movie, where it's like, where they're dealing with like all the missiles over Japan and everything like that, where like Mimi has like no idea what's going on. She's just relaxing on her vacation. We see Rika's mom is like asleep on the plane the entire time that everything is happening with the V-Pets. And like her plane, I think, is almost supposed to crash, but it doesn't, thankfully. And she just like wakes up and she's like, that was such a restful flight. And I'm like, oh God, no. But yeah. And then we do kind of see one of the moments where after the battle with Vajramon, the giant boar Deva, we see how worried Rika's mother and grandmother were about her and everything. And, we see, Rika's mother just like hugging her, and Rika's like, I didn't know that she would have been that worried, is what she's like thinking. And then, Rika doesn't tell her mother that she leaves. She tells her grandmother that she's leaving. I'll get to that. But, they leave and they head off to the digital world and everything her and Renamon do with the others. And then, Rika's mother and grandmother are at like, the grouping of parents where they're getting everything explained to them by the monster makers in Yamaki for, where all the kids went. And we have them there. And one of the things that happens is during the time frame that they're waiting for the kids to come back, Rumiko tends to be, is pretty on the positive side for things. And, she's, when they get the call that Rika and the others are on their way back and everything, she tries to pull her mom away from the computer. The grandma is actually helping with something that's helping with bringing Rika back. So I'll get back to that. But one of the things that happens is, of course, they show up at the park after the kids are arriving and everything, they see Rika and, they're also happy and everything. And, Rika's mom and grandma are just so happy to see that Rika's okay and everything. And I love that we have that. And then we have it that they're kind of, during the time frame when like the D Reaper first shows up in the human world, Rika and her mom and her grandma are kind of off at, I don't know if it's like, it's probably like some form of like an upper class hotel or something like that. And we see her mom on the phone talking with like some of her fashion people that she's like, just keep me informed if anything comes up, if you have any work for me or whatever. And Seiko is like, I don't think they're going to be having any fashion shoots right now. And she goes, you don't think I know that, Mom? I'm sorry. I need something to keep myself distracted. And, she's not trying to snap at our mother. Rumiko's not trying to snap at her mother. She's just like, it's like, I need something else to focus on than all this stuff that's going on with this giant red glob appearing in the middle of our city that seems to have followed my child back from this world that I could not follow her to help her in. And this is when we have this great little scene between Rika and her mother. And, Rika is like ready to head off to go and, go and fight against, the D Reaper, go meet up with Takato and Henry and everything. And her mom stops her and she's like, she's like, I know that I can't stop you from going, but I can at least send you with this. And she gives her a bag, and inside the bag is a new variation of the heart shirt, because Rika's regular shirt has like a heart that's like broken. And this is a new version that has like, it's a full heart, and it's still the same shirt, but it's, it's a full heart. And then Rumiko, opens up her jacket to show that she's wearing like a pink version of the shirt instead of the green version that Rika wears. And then, Rika like changes into her shirt and she heads off. And Rumiko is like, as Rika leaves, she like, their mother, the grandma, appears behind her, and she's like, Mom, I did the right thing, right? Please tell me I did the right thing. And she's like, yes, you did the right thing. she would have gone anyway, but at least now she goes knowing that you love her. And we get that nice moment there. And then, of course, there is the moment where, like, Takato, Rika, and Henry's parents, where all of their parents and such get them together at, at Rika's house. And Rika's like, it could be a trap. He's like, I don't think our parents would try to trap us that way. And they get there, and, everybody is there. They're all eating and relaxing and everything. Like, Renamon's kind of off to the side, eating on her own, but she's comfortable with it because Renamon's not as, like, touchy-feely as, like, Gilmon and, Terriermon are. But she's still very, polite and everything. And we have, all of them off to the, they're all eating and relaxing and everything. And she's like, Rumiko's like, I cooked a whole bunch. And Rika's like, you cook? She's like, I have a lot of talents you don't know about. So we have that. And then sometimes, of course, when they send the kids back off again, when the kids have to run out, both Rumiko and Sayoko are, hugging Rika. And, we have this kind of cute moment. Well, I don't call it cute. I call it sweet, I guess would be a better way of putting it, where when the parents are sending them off, Rumiko is kind of like, leaning on her mother and everything. And it's, Takato's parents have each other to, lean on. And, Mayumi, Henry's mother has her husband and everything. As Jonyu, even though he's off doing other stuff to help with the kids and everything, to help get the kids safe and everything. Rumiko's support is her mother. And, I just kind of look at it as like, she's leaning on her mother for support, and she's getting the support she needs from her mother and from, like, the others around her, from the other parents that are around her and such. So we see that. And then, after it's revealed that, Jerry's inside of the D Reaper and everything, and she's been captured, and the one that we brought back was actually like a weird clone, was a doppelganger. And then, Jerry's parents show up, at like the, the temporary headquarters and everything. Rumiko tries to comfort Jerry's stepmother. And she's like, being a stepmother is hard. Being any kind of mother is hard. And during that time frame is when we have, like, Rika off to the side, kind of off on her own. And she's like, I need to, yeah, my parents are divorced and I don't see my dad that often, but I could see him more, and at least he's still alive and everything. And that's about the most we ever get about Rika's dad. We don't really see, there is one more bit that we see with Rukia. Bleach. No. That we see with Rika and her mother and grandmother before the end of the series. They end up, figuring out that Jerry's inside the D Reaper, and they have to figure out a way of getting to her and everything. They all head off to, like, Takato and his parents head off to, like, where Takato's aunt and uncle live, and then Rika and her mom and grandma head to this very nice hotel somewhere. And, they have this conversation between, like, Renamon and her mom, between Renamon and Rumiko. And she's just like, Renamon, so are you a boy or a girl? And she's like, well, Digimon don't really have defined genders. And she's like, well, you have to be a girl, or you have to be like a girl or a woman or whatever, because of the way that you wear that fur. Which, that comment has not aged well, but I get where Rika's mother is coming from, considering this is supposed to take place in, like, 2001, 2002 range. So, yeah, you get a little bit of a pass there, Rumiko. And then the last time that we see Rika's mom is when is in the Digimon Runaway Locomon movie. We see her at the beginning of the movie. She, like, took Rika to go to, in the English translation that they have, they went to go look at portraits in, like, an art gallery. They went to go see, like, she's like, oh, mom likes Mizrahi, not Monet. And then in the Japanese, it's like they went to, like, I think it was like a Sakura Petal Festival, I think, was something that I heard. For, like, what the original translation was. So I'm like, So we see that, and it was like her mother trying to distract her while, like, everybody else was getting ready for the party for Rika's birthday. And then when we get to at the end of the movie, we see the party and everything for Rika, and we see Rika's mom is like trying to like karaoke, and that doesn't go well because she can't sing very well. Yeah. Moving on to Sayako, who is Rukia's grandmother. She is Sayako Hata. So the Nonaka name does not come from their mother's side of the family. It comes from Rukia's father's side. And she is actually 49 years old, so she's not that old. But then again, Rukia's mother had her when she was 18. So, yeah. And, well, by that logic, my grandmother wouldn't have been that much older when Rumiko was born anyway. And as I stated, they probably didn't come from a very well-to-do background, and then that's why Rumiko wants to be able to provide for Rukia. Why do I keep doing that? I've got bleach on the brain. Good point. Wants to be able to provide for Rukia. I did it again. Wants to be able to provide for Rika. Sorry. Kind of think Rika and Rukia would somewhat get along. They're not afraid to tell the respective boys that they are around that they're idiots. But I'm sure, well, yeah, well, they're not afraid to do that. But one of the other things is, that we see the grandmother around a lot. Her and Rika seem to have a little bit of a better relationship than Rumiko and Rika do at the beginning of the series, although the grandma kind of likes to make like weird food combinations. I don't remember what the weird food combinations are. But, they're around each other a lot more. One of the things that I did miss with Rukia's mother was that at the beginning of the series, when we see that she goes to this private school, Rumiko is supposed to come for I think it's supposed to be like Parents' Day or something like that, but she doesn't stay around very long because she gets like a call and she has to rush out to go and do like a photo shoot somewhere. So she wanted to stay, but she couldn't, and Rukia, I'm going to do that a lot. I'm sorry. Rika, the names aren't that different. Rika is probably, is like, she doesn't like that because it kind of seems like her mother is not necessarily that her mother's not paying attention to her, but it's just not as supportive, I guess, of what she would like her mother to be. Yeah, when it comes to the grandma, when it comes to Sayako, she's there a lot more. We see her throughout the course of the time frame. At one point, she when Takato has to come to Rika to get some advice about stuff with Gilmon, she's like, "Oh, is your friend staying for dinner?" "No, he's not, and he's not my friend." It's like Rukia is Rika's answer to that. And then there is the moment where what is it? It's part of the time frame, Renamon left and she came back. Rika and her grandmother go to this play, and it's the play is kind of showing the animal, the fox thing left, and then it came back, and Rika is remembering that about Renamon. And then during the first movie, The Battle of Adventure, we do see her grandmother there. She has one of the V pets and everything, and she has it running around on her computer and such. Not really too much, but we see her a little bit there. And then after the battle with, Vicaramon, as I stated, both Rumiko and Sayako were very worried about Rika and such. Sayako had been the one to point out to Rumiko that, you're the one that wanted her to do the photo. She agreed to it, but you're the one that set it up in the first place. And she didn't end up being comfortable with it, so don't try to push her. So we do see times where Rumiko and Sayako don't quite get along don't quite mesh as well as they could, but they're a mother and daughter, and given the fact that Rumiko got married and had Rika when she was 18, Sayako is probably a little bit more concerned about stuff to a degree, although Rumiko turned out to be a very responsible parent and everything, and she was very much able to provide for Rika, which we see very, very easily throughout the course of the series. But we see recycling truck outside. But we see that Rumiko, or that Sayako actually ends up seeing Renamon with Rika, and she goes I thought I was seeing things in my old age when I kept seeing a fox. She's like, I always knew my granddaughter had a guardian angel. I just didn't think it was going to be like a human-sized, yellow fox. And she basically asked Renamon, it's just like, I'll give my blessing for Rika to go if you promise to bring her back safe. And like, Renamon is kind of this kind of a bit of like a valiant knight to a degree, is kind of like a little bit, I would compare Renamon to a degree. Very honorable. And she promises to bring Rukia back and bring Rika back. Sorry. Promises to bring Rika back. I know the difference between the two characters. Rukia is shorter. Whatever. But one of the things, they head off, and Rumiko and Sayako, of course, are at like the parent get together. And they try to comfort some of the other parents and such. And then during the time frame when they need to get all the kids back, because they need to get a bunch of other computers to help with being able to do all the calculations and everything for Hypnos, they end up asking all these strangers around the world, and one of the ones ends up being Sayako, and she's like helping with that, like having her computer help with doing all the different calculations and everything. Which, admittedly, the way that they set it up seems kind of like a scam, but, I don't know exactly how they pull that off, how the monster makers pull that off, but they do. And then, of course, via all those calculations from all those thousands and thousands of computers around the world, they're able to, calculate the arc and get it to the kids and get the kids back and everything. And, of course, Sayako and Rumiko are so happy to see Rika again. Of course, as I said, we get there's a moment in the series where Sayako ends up talking with Rika. Sorry, I'm just going to leave all those slips in because it's funny. I don't know how many slips there are, but leave them in because it's funny. Where Sayako talks to Rika about the fact of, like, you don't always need to be alone. And this is what she says.
Maybe you're not old enough to understand this, but no one can make it in this world on their own. People are meant to be together. You're expecting way too much of yourself, Rika.
As I said, Sayako is very supportive of both Rukia, Rika, and Rumiko. Is very supportive of both of them throughout the course of the series. And later on with Renamon, yes, lots of R's there. Lots of R's with that family. And we see some of that and everything, and in the last movie, in the Digimon Runaway Locomon, we see Sayako at the beginning of the movie. Her and Jerry and Calamon are like making a cake for Rika's birthday party, and then she's like at the birthday party later. She does not attempt to sing, which is probably a good thing, but yeah, that's where that goes. That's the last we see of the grandma. And then a little bit about the father. As I stated, we don't know very much about him. He's probably around Rumiko's age, possibly a tiny bit older, depending on stuff, but we don't know. We know that they're divorced. The closest thing we get to ever seeing him is in Runaway Locomon, where Rika ends up being put into like the dream hazy whatever state by the Parasemon, where he's controlling her and everything and trying to use her to attack Takato. And in her, in her mind and the headspace he puts her in, she's like, singing, and she's got like her dad there with her and everything. That's like a memory from when she was a little kid. And, I stated I think I talked about this in the Yamaki video, where I said that they have the same guy that voices him, also the same guy that voices Gilmon, Steve Bloom, voice Rika's father in that. And just, Rika doesn't have like as I guess somewhat of a cooperative relationship with Yamaki as Takato and Henry do. But one of the things is, I think that kind of spawned a theory that like maybe Yamaki was her dad. But the thing is if that was the case, then Rumiko would have recognized him the instant that he popped up, Second of all, his last name wouldn't be Yamaki, it would be Nonaka. Third of all, Rika would recognize her dad because she met Yamaki at various points and she would recognize that that was her father. So it's just, they just had the same actor come in and provide the voice because they didn't really need to provide, get a whole new voice for this one character that's in this one bit. But yeah, it's stated, Rika doesn't see her dad that often. I'm assuming it's either that like Rumiko's father is either dead or he's just not around. I'm assuming possibly dead, but I don't know because I'm not familiar as much with Japanese history in regards to like what would have other things that would have been going on at that point in time. That would have resulted in different things about that. And there's various ways people can die, but that's not what this is about. In regards to like Rika's grandfather, Rumiko's father. But yeah, so Rika could see her dad more, but she doesn't really want to. She doesn't have that good of a relationship with him, I guess, to the point where she wants to go and do that. But kind of, I would kind of think that, after everything that happens with Jerry and what she sees with Jerry's father, that to a degree she might be a little bit more wanting to go and spend a little more time with her dad, or at the very least try to have their relationship a little bit better. So yeah, that's what we have there for the Nonaka family. The next one is going to be about the Kato family, which is about Jerry's family. And then I will the fifth one is just going to be like a miscellaneous one about Kazu and Kenta's parents, Ryo's dad, and then I am going to throw in Minami's dad and the dog. The dog from Digimon Battle of Adventure. I'm just going to throw all them in like one video because it's just like I don't have enough information about these guys to all make a video about them on their own. With Jerry's father and such we do. So that's what we have for the Nonaka family. I thank you for watching and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye.